Hello, I'm Stuart Lloyd and I'm here today with Chris Hannant, Policy Director at AIFA, and with Richard Howells, UK Intermediary Sales Director at Zurich. We're here today to discuss three very important topics. Firstly, fair liability for advice and all the campaign work that's going on there. And also we're going to be talking about the retail distribution review and what that means for our industry towards the end of this year. And lastly, we're going to discuss for Zurich and AIFA what specific plans they may have as we move towards the RDR deadline. Richard, Chris, it's great to see you both here today.
Hi.
Let's start with fair liability for advice. This started as a conversation between Zurich and AIFA earlier this year, right at the start of 2012. Now, it's received a hell of a lot of support from the IFA community. It's obviously a subject very close to their hearts, and also had some fantastic press and media coverage. But I'd like to get from you, gentlemen, what developments you think are happening and how do you think things are going?
Well, I think the campaign's going fantastically well. It's had a lot of support, and so should it. It's such an important issue that, my experience of talking to intermediaries of all different shapes and sizes is that when they really understand the issue, it goes almost right to the top of their priority list. So it's been very heartening to see the number of individual IFAs who've come on board with the campaign. We've had the endorsement of the campaign from a number of very large distribution groups, such as Intrinsic, Tenet, Sesame Bancal Group, etc. And obviously we've had fantastic support from the media as well. Our media partner in the campaign, Financial Advisor, has done an absolutely sterling job. But I should also mention as well the fact that the other media outlets have also picked up on the story and have also carried it as a very positive headline. So we really couldn't have hoped for it to go any better. But of course, the true test of how good the campaign will be is ultimately if we get the right outcome.
I mean, I'd echo much of what Richard's just said. I think it's telling in the research that we found that a majority of consumers were supportive of introduction of a long stop for advisors. Particularly pleased that we've had the issue raised in the House of Lords during the passage of the Financial Services Bill, and although it was unfortunate the government chose not to accept the amendment to the bill, the Minister clearly indicated that he expected the FCA to follow up on its promise, on the FSA's promise to the Treasury Select Committee, and look at the issue again in the context of its forward work programme.
So still a fair bit of work to do?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, it's been a good start, but as I say, the impetus needs to continue now. There's lots of work, and I know that the team here at AIFA are working tirelessly on that, and we need to continue to build the support from all angles. The more support the better.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling. Actually, senior people at the FSA have told me since we published our report in September that their post bag has been fairly full with letters from MPs, members of the House of Lords, asking about the issue. So, and they say, well, your campaign is clearly getting traction.
So that tallies with the response you're already getting from the community. So there's a very strong link. You mentioned the FCA there, that was interesting. So in terms of the handover almost, how do you think that's going to be affected, and what are the next steps, do you think, there?
Well, obviously the FSA is looking to the future, how it's going to behave and how it's going to act. And it will be developing its at a strategic level, and then also its work programme at a practical level. I think it's incumbent on the new body to look at this afresh. It's got new statutory objectives. The FSA says it's looked at it previously, but they were looking at it through a different lens then. And so I think it is incumbent for the FSA to look at this again and follow through, as I said, on the promise that's already been given to the Treasury Select Committee.
So there's a really positive stance I'm getting from both of you in terms of fair liability for advice. If we change tack slightly now, think about the RDR in the wider piece, if you like. Both organisations are continuing to develop and support the IFA community. But Richard, if I can start with you, what's happening with Zurich, and what are the next steps for you as a business?
Yeah, well, I mean, on top of the work we're doing on the campaign, which is continuing, and our support for that will be as strong as it has been. We've obviously been doing a lot of other stuff in the background to help advisors, or as many advisors as possible, get over the line. So we've been putting a lot of time and effort and money into exam support to get people through there. We've come alongside again with AIFA in terms of the Fast Forward programme that's on the AIFA website, which is a fantastic source of information and guidance for IFA firms thinking about what are the next steps for me to be not just RDR ready, but being able to flourish in a post-RDR environment. And of course, from our own perspective, we've been doing our own work in terms of shaping our proposition for the new market and launching our new retail platform. So there's been an enormous amount of work that we've been doing, both for ourselves, but predominantly for the intermediary, who is effectively our business anyway.
So it's interesting you say that it's about supporting the intermediary. Obviously, AIFA as a trade body, that main focus to support the intermediary. What are you actually doing now to kind of move things forward? So outside of just fair liability for advice as a trade body.
Well, I suppose it works on a couple of levels. There's the practical help. Richard's mentioned the fast forward support that helps advisors to think about how to set up their business in future, and we'll actually continue that beyond the 1st of January because we think it's a useful tool that can help people think about how they run their business as well as just preparing for a particular change in the regulatory environment. We've also had a qualification that we developed with the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Scotland that was a top-up qualification for people who were already level 3 qualified. That has now come to an end, but a qualification is still there for members if they want to start from scratch to get to the level 4. More generally, though, we continue to fight for a business environment that's conducive to running a viable advisory business, and there's been a lot of issues this year with changes around compensation, the redress scheme, a proposed redress scheme for Arch Crew. We've got the changes coming to the regulator. We've got proposals for new regulations at a European level. So there's been a huge amount going on that would all affect the business environment for advisors, and we've been doing our business as usual in fighting to make sure that we get an outcome that's favourable to the advisor community.
So you're dealing with the changes and supporting the market. Another change that I think is on the verge is a name change potentially for AIFA?
Yes, we've proposed that we should change our name to the Association of Professional Financial Advisors. That will go to our AGM in November. The driver of this is principally the RDR and the definition of independent and restricted advisors. We don't think who we represent should be dictated by an arbitrary regulatory boundary that's been invented. So we want to continue to represent our current members and the advice profession, so we will represent independent and restricted advisors in the future, and obviously it seems appropriate that we should change our name given that we have the independent in the title.
Okay, so watch that space in terms of confirmation. Views on that, Richard?
I support it. I mean, we are in Zurich, we're agnostic about what type of advice you are. We believe strongly that consumers get a better outcome when they take some form of advice. It's a very logical step to take and one that we would support. I think, the one message I would perhaps give to Chris, now I've got the opportunity to do so, would be, there's a lot of really good work that goes on in terms of lobbying for the intermediary, trying to get a better business environment, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to share that good work, because I think sometimes the danger is the association has not been seen as a member organisation enough in the past. What I think people should do is look upon all of that good work and say, actually, that's being done for me, and because of that, then the association deserves my support as well. So. This is not just a Zurich thing. I think it's about the market saying, look, we should make it clear all this good work that's going on, and then you can judge for yourself, the true value of being a member of the association. So,
I mean, I think I agree with much of that. I mean, I think a trade association is its members. That's as simple as that. Without the members, there's no point to our existence. and it's incumbent on us to communicate with them, both in telling them what we're up to, but actually also hearing their views. It's very important that we reflect their views, that we've got an ongoing constructive dialogue with them so that we can get the information from the front line and understand how things are affecting their business, because there's nothing worse as a trade association if you're saying one thing and your members en masse are saying something else. It makes you look like a joke.
So how are you going to get out there and get that message clear? I think is an obvious question there.
Well, we've got a number of mechanisms. Obviously, we've got our council, we've got a consultative group that is a virtual group that is basically a debating forum within the association that any member can participate in. We'll also next year be looking to get out and about around the country a bit more, because with lobbying and focus on the FSA and government, you can get tend to be a bit London-centric maybe, and it's important that we communicate with our members and have that dialogue no matter where they are. So we'll be seeking to develop a bit of a programme for engagement with them around the country and listening to their views and telling them what we're about.
They're always well received, actually.
Yeah.
You know, those roadshows when they happen, they are always well received, because I think you get generally a very high quality agenda for people to discuss and participate in. And certainly my personal experience and the feedback I've had is getting out there on the road and really reaching out to the membership is a positive thing. And again, with so many big issues on the agenda, then no better time than next year to do exactly that. So again, I think that's a very, very positive move.
So Richard, Chris, if I may just summarise, Fair Liability for Advice, very much up and running and on the regulator's agenda, which is great news, and also both AIFA and Zurich still focused on supporting the intermediary to survive and thrive in a post-RDR world. It all looks and sounds very promising, so thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Stuart.